Hey everybody, Rob Folia, Folia Properties at Keller Williams Realty. It's February. Hope everybody's having a great start to their 2024. And I want to go through what the market looks like here in the second month of 2024. I think there's an important question that we need to ask ourselves in the real estate market right now, and that is it a good time to buy a home? That's hence the question here that's in the thumbnail for this photo. Yes, no, or is it complicated? In my opinion, that answer might be it's complicated depending on your scenario. But let's dive in. Let's take a look at some numbers and let's go into why it might be complicated, when it might make sense to buy a home, when it might make sense to kind of stay put, etc. So let's just jump right in. First things first, and that's mortgage rates. I know with it being an election year, that's kind of a a prime subject that a lot of people are wanting to talk about. A lot of people, a lot of pundits seem to think that that mortgage rates are going to drop this year in 2024. And guys, so far we're not seeing that. Just looking here at the market, this is for the last 52 weeks. Right here is where we crossed into the new year. You can see for about 2 months, rates were very, very stable here, right? And basically in the 6.6s, up and down, a couple hundredths of a percent, basically mid sixes. They jumped up last week to closer to the to high sixes. In fact, I talked with one of my mortgage friends the other day. He said he's seeing rates in the sevens now for excellent credit, highly qualified conventional buyers. And I think it's important to note because the reality is we very well might be looking at a 2024 with mortgage rates are like they were in 2023. That might not be a bad thing. And yet it's something for us to be paying attention to and to be considering as well. And let's in fact here, we'll go to the mortgage calculator here shortly. I want to first look at some market trends to see how rates are kind of affecting if the market's moving right now. What I've got pulled up right now is just Davidson County months of supply. Months of supply as a refresher. That's just simply supply and demand. If no other home were to hit the market, how long would it take the current amount of inventory to go away, to sell? And you can see right now we're at almost 5 months. That's bordering getting to a balanced market. 5 to 7, or some might say 6 months is considered a balanced market. I'll be surprised if we see this number rise here as we begin to see stats for February and March, etc. Reason I say that is typically, if you go back in time as well, even just look at 2022, it peaked in January because activity is slower around the holidays, starts to go down in February, March, April, kind of bottoms out in the spring and then goes back up. Same thing happened last year. You can see it peaked in January, February, March, it dropped, and it's just normal supply and demand. Demand is starting to kickstart when supply hasn't necessarily caught up to it yet. So again, I'd be surprised to see that trend line continue to go up when we see February's stats, but just something to be paying attention to. From a market stability standpoint, I think honestly what we saw last year was pretty solid. And so if we see a similar pattern this year, meaning inventory levels drop, say to the let's see, where were we here in March? 2.5 months. That's honestly that is kind of low, but still 2.5 to 3 months. If we're seeing something in there, it's going to be a strong seller's market, and yet there's still opportunity for buyers with those numbers as well. Um, just to show a couple of other things real quick, because I want to really take a look at to answer that question that we started this video with, and that is it a good time to buy? Is it not a good time to buy? Is it just complicated right now? And that is, let's take a look at some pricing trends. Average sales price, again, this is Davidson County. Average sales price, you can see $688,000. That was the average closed price um, for last month. Median, just to see if there's really a change here, 470. Let's work off the median, just because that tells me when it's median, it's right there in the middle of that sample size. Average is going to get skewed by by just some higher dollar sales that might not be in there. But when I see median being 470, that's telling me that, hey, there's opportunity out there for a home buyer in the mid fours to the 500 range. 700 might be a great number for some, and yet let's just take a $500,000 home purchase to work off of what we're seeing right now. Um, and again, let's just answer this question. Does it make sense to buy a home today? It's going to come down to your budget. And what we've got pulled up right here is just a mortgage calculator. If you want to play around with some numbers yourself, while there are a ton of them out there, you can just use the one on my website. Go to foliaproperties.com. You'll be able to plug in any numbers that you've got if you want to just kind of see what makes sense for you. Now, before we even dissect these numbers, most home buyers that are out there are going to get pre-approved for a number higher than what they should spend. That's if they have no other debt. Because lenders are going to pre-approve you based on what they call debt to income ratio. And they're going to go up to a certain percentage, depends on the type of loan you're looking to qualify for, typically somewhere in that 40 to 45, maybe even 50% range. That's of your pre-tax income. So say pre-tax, say what, what Uncle Sam thinks you make, say that's $100,000 a year. Divide that by 12. That's roughly, trying to do quick mental math, say that's 9,000 a month. It's somewhere right in there, eight to 9,000 a month. They're going to say you can qualify for debt roughly if 45% of that, let's just call it $4,000 a month, is what they're going to say you can qualify for. And if you have no other debt that's out there, say you don't have student loans, credit cards, car payments, they're in a lender's mind, they're going to say you can qualify for a $4,000 a month payment. Now, that to some people that might be extreme. To other people that might just be tip of the iceberg. You might feel great about that. I have different feelings about it. Instead of DTI, I like to look at it from I guess, a payment to your after-tax income standpoint. And I like to cap it, at least from my conversations that I have with not only my family and friends, but just with my clients too. I like to just kind of self-cap it somewhere around that 20 to 25% max, depending on the numbers, depending on how regular your income is, how flexible your income is. Because the reality is, if you have a after-tax income of say $100,000, and say you're working off that $9,000 a month household income budget still, 20 to 25% is going to be roughly $2,000. And if you're making $2,000, that's still, if you're putting that towards your house, that gives you flexibility if you do need a car payment or want to have a car payment. If you want to put money away for repairs for your home or for additions, or maybe you want to hopefully start buying some things in cash. You want to maybe want to buy other rental properties. You're trying to save money for a down payment, whatever it might be. It gives your household that flexibility to then say, hey, instead of putting half of our money toward a home, we're gonna put we're gonna put 25% of it toward that home, and it's going to allow us to just have more flexibility with our budget. So just keep that in mind. That, to me, that's a percentage that I like to think of is that I think works. If you're 20 to 25% of your post-tax income is going towards your house payment, you're probably going to be all right. If it's much more than that, you might be tough. It might be a little tight. But anyway, let's just look at a $500,000 home. So I've got a $500,000 home pulled up right here. Home value, you can see 500,000. And again, the reason I'm coming up with that number, it's around the median for Davidson County, median sales price for last month. Say you're putting $10,000 down. That might be because you sold a house and that was some of your profits, your proceeds from the sale. Maybe you saved a down payment for your purchase as well. But say you're putting 10% down. You have a $450,000 loan left. And let's just say your rate's somewhere in the low sevens. I just plugged in 7.25. I'm not a lender, so don't quote me on that number. I just have to plug in something so we can calculate this. We've got a 30-year fixed rate. We've got about $200 a month for taxes. I didn't put anything in for PMI. Your lender's going to be able to give you a better idea of what that's going to look like for you. It's going to depend on a lot of factors. We'll leave that blank for now, but that's likely not going to be blank for you. Then I just put in $1,000 a month for homeowners insurance, and now it very well could be higher. Still, from what we're seeing before PMI, with some very just kind of easy numbers in there for taxes and insurance, you're looking at a payment of $3,300 a month, almost over $3,350 a month for the household that, let's say, is making $100,000 pre-tax. You might qualify for that. And yet if it's $100,000 pre-tax, say it's $70,000 after your taxes, that's, let's just call it $6 or $7 a month. That's half of what you're making every single month that's going out the door for your house payment. To me, I'd say use extreme caution if this is your scenario. But again, that question from the beginning that I want to answer, is it a good time to buy? Yes, no, or it's complicated. To me, this is going to go firmly in that it's complicated, because let's just say, let's take some of these numbers out. Let's just say instead of it being $100,000 for a household income, maybe your household pre-tax is 150. You have it's a dual income household, whatever the case might be. You're making $150,000 a year. Say post-tax, that's $100,000. Now all of a sudden, let's just say easy math, say it's $10,000 a month. That's 33% of your household income that's going out the door for a house payment. It's higher than the threshold, but if you're renting and you're spending close to that or that number and you don't really have what you want and it's not your home, to me, maybe it does at that point make sense to say, all right, let's buy a place instead of renting. Um, if you currently own a place though, and say your mortgage payment is $1,500 a month and you're going to more than double it, gosh, I would really say, hey, where is the benefit? Where's the benefit in this? Like maybe your family's growing, you're bursting at the seams in your home and you really just you can't make it work. You need something bigger. Okay, if that's the case, let's do it. But otherwise, I'd say really use proceed with caution. Proceed with caution. Either proceed with caution as in let's dial back the budget because I mean this while this payment might scare some people out there, if you're purchasing a $420,000 home, putting 10% down, nothing else changing, we've lowered that payment by 500 a month just by going with a lower price. That's going to help. Um, so again, it's going to be complicated. Then again, also, hey, are you going to find what you want for $420,000? That's a question too that we got to answer. But another reason why the answer to that question doesn't make sense to buy right now is not yes, it's not no, but it's complicated. Because I would say for most people who are moving up, say it's from a townhome to a home. Gosh, I'm thinking of my old townhome neighborhood right now that I used to live in years and years and years ago. And I'd say right now those are selling in the 300s, low 300s. It's actually been a minute since I comped them out, but I'd say it's an easy round number to work off of. While there very well might be some meat on that bone, if I had a property there and was going to sell it, meat on that bone in terms of having a lot of equity in the property, the difference between what I had for $300,000 with hopefully a low interest mortgage rate compared to what I could buy for $420,000 or even $500,000 at a 7% interest rate. I'd really have to question, hey, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth making that move? Increasing my monthly housing budget, and for maybe going from a 1,300 square foot townhome to 1,700 square foot home. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe you need a yard, whatever the case might be. But you really got to ask yourself, does it make sense to do that? Is it worth an extra 1,500 a month to do that? Again, it's not yes, it's not no, but it's complicated because the reality is, I've heard so many experts this year talk about rates, say, hey, they're going to go up, they're going to go down. I say experts, I'm going to use quotes. I should have used air quotes there. Experts talk about rates because some of those experts are just talking gut feel. Hey, it's an election year, rates are going to drop, etc. They don't know. The reality is they've gone up a little bit this year. They might go down to where they were at the start of the year, and they might just hover in the mid sixes for the next 12 months, for all we know. And if that's the case, who knows? I mean, maybe these are the lowest rates we're going to see for the next decade. Like we just don't know. If you go back and look at the all-time rates, look right here in the late 90s. Gosh, I mean, when rates dropped here to the mid sixes in 1999, that was the lowest we'd seen rates in ever. I'm just looking back. Was that ever? I mean, possibly, because even just looking here since they tracked it all the way back to 1971, I mean, rates were in the sevens, the eights, boom, they skyrocketed. When they started to come back down here in 99, 98, 99, they came back down to the sixes. So, I mean, this might be the lowest we see rates forever. And so if that's the case, don't necessarily worry too much about what the house price is. Worry about your payment, how that fits in with your budget. I think people will get into trouble financially if they're saying, buying this $3,000 a month payment, and they really should have been buying a home 5 years ago when the same house at a 7% rate, say it was three a few years ago, would have been $1,800 a month. That's where people are going to get in trouble because that's an extra $1,000 a month going out the door. It's like I lost my mic there. Let me make sure my mic is back to yeah, it is. Okay, cool. That's where people are going to get in trouble because the reality is that extra $1,000 a month can create a cushion if in the case of job loss or just a lot of different factors that are out there in an economy with a lot of unknowns. An election year breeds a lot of unknowns. So anyway, this is a long-winded way to say, hey, if you are thinking about making a move in 2024, it's not a good time and it's not a bad time. It's a complicated time. And, I want to be the person to help you navigate this complicated time when it comes to real estate. Because y'all know I'm not going to BS you. I'm not going to just say, hey, yes, buy a home because it makes sense to buy a home. I'm going to have your best interest at heart. I'm going to let you decide because it's ultimately your decision if you buy a home or if you end up just staying put. But I'm going to let you decide, but I'm going to make sure you're informed. So reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd love to help. I'd love to, at the very least, provide you with some real numbers for what your scenario looks like. You can give me a call, 615-238-7578. You can also, if you're seeing this in your email, hit reply, just ask me your question. I'm happy to help. If you're seeing this on social media, on YouTube, leave a comment. I'm happy to help however I can. Y'all, I appreciate y'all swinging by, checking us out this month. We'll be back hopefully next week on the 1st with a new market update. If it's not next week on the 1st, it'll be the first week in March. But appreciate y'all. We'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you so much.